So let's talk about the Let Me Be a Woman story. So the Let Me Be a Woman story is actually my story of how I came into the knowledge of myself, sort of began to desire to develop myself, improve myself, and be better. So it began when I found myself in a very weird situation. I wondered every day up till today how I got myself in that situation. So I'm walking out of the room of this guy, and I'm walking out with tears in my eyes because he said to me, "Hey, my girlfriend is coming and you have to leave." I never in my life thought that I would find myself in such a situation. I was in a relationship, he was in a relationship, but somehow I sort of convinced myself that he loved me, loved me and for who I was and accepted me. So I was in this weird relationship with him as well. And one of those days I was in his room hanging out, and then his girlfriend calls and says, "Hey, I'm coming over." And so he says to me, "Oh my God, you have to leave. My girlfriend is coming over." And you know how that feels, like, you know how that looks, like it does not look right. And so you you're shocked, right? And that's like my whole experience. Like, I'm surprised. I'm like, how did I get here? And I'm walking out of his room and I'm just tears running down my face. I'm crying and I'm like, I'm better than this. I'm better than this. Like, I'm a good woman. This is not who I am. This is not who I am. I'm crying and everything. And in the process, just a few steps away from his door, I hear the Holy Spirit say into my ear, "Let me be a woman." Now, when he said that, I knew that Let Me Be a Woman is a book, actually. So it's a book by Elizabeth Elliot about, so it's basically like letters of a mother who's writing to her daughter, who's about to get married, and trying to teach her, the basics of being a feminine woman, basically. So that's what the book is about. So I felt like he was leading me to go read that book. Now, one of the striking things in the book, which for me was a turning point, was when Elizabeth talked about the interaction between Eve and the serpent when she was tempted. Now, the serpent came and told Eve that, that if, what did God say? And Eve said that if we eat of this fruit, blah, blah, blah. And the serpent goes like, "Oh, if you eat of this fruit, you're not going to die. You're going to be like God. You're going to be this. You're going to be that." And then the woman, so the thought of, "Oh, I'm going to be like God. Oh, I'm going to be, wise. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be that." Now, Elizabeth asked the question, what if the woman had responded to the serpent at the time he said the statement that you could be like God? What if the woman had said, "Let me not be like God. Let me be a woman, just what he made me to be," right? And it was so striking for me because I felt like a lot of the things that we go through, a lot of the mistakes that we make is because we actually do not accept ourselves as who we've been made. We feel like we would be better off being something else, someone else, right? The crux of that part of the book for me was, let me be a woman. So let me be a woman is not as I've had, the experience of people saying, "Why do you need to ask someone to let you be a woman?" Let me be a woman, it's not asking for permission. It's actually stating that I'm going to be a woman and I'm going to be fully, what God made me to be. And so that's the declaration, that's a statement we make every time we say, "Let me be a woman." Let me be a woman says that I don't want to be anything that I was not made to be. I don't want to be anything that I was not called to be. I just want to be a woman. And if I was going to be a woman, then I need to find out who she is, what her power is. How can I be fully a woman so that I don't desire to be something else or someone else, right? And so that was the process of self-discovery for me. So, I left and I went and found that book. I went into a retreat. I prayed. I sort of, asked for forgiveness, took some time off, and then read the book, tried to get some sense in. And I realized in the process that, it was more of me not knowing who I was and me not, having a true sense of identity, for which reason I ended up in those kinds of relationships, right? So in the process, what happened was I started reading a lot, and I started, using the information I was getting from the books to develop myself, how to control my emotions, because it was one of my biggest, weakest areas. And I used to struggle with it a lot. And I also came from a childhood. I had a childhood where it was like you were never quite good. I was good in academics. I was good in my education in school. I did everything that I could do. I was always one of the best in school. But when it came to life, practical, living, I couldn't just help myself. My room will always be messed up. I didn't know how to cook, and as a young woman growing up, especially in African culture, you know how important that was. So that was a time for me to begin to try to learn these things and become better. And I kind of discovered along the way that, it was just about putting my mind to it and learning the habits one on top of the other, and I was going to get better at it. And so I started to, document my journey through a blog. It was an Instagram blog at the time. And so, and then I had a WordPress blog as well. So I would write, my thoughts, and I would, make posts based on my thoughts and things I was musing on, and post them. And I did that for about 2 years into my journey. And I realized, younger women would come and ask me questions and would want to know about this, about that. And I kind of figured that, there were many others out there who would want to learn. So for me, it was a journey of finding my younger self and, helping her quicker. I wish that at that age I had somebody who had mercy on me, somebody who was, let's say somebody who was kind enough, patient enough to tell me the truth, but still hold space for me to grow, right? And so that was what the Let Me Be a Woman Foundation became. We started a community online. We invited as many women as possible. And in a few months, in about 6 months, we had over 200 women from 5 different countries. It was amazing. And it has remained an online community up to this day. It was registered. So everything started somewhere in 2016. By 2019, we had registered the organization as a nonprofit in Ghana, and we started having outreaches and campaigns, and we would go out to do community service, stuff that allowed our members to sort of use their gifts and talents and stuff like that. So that's basically the Let Me Be a Woman story. And up until now, we have impacted several lives. We have done several online virtual conferences. We have had physical conferences for young women between the ages of 14 to 35, basically. And the testimonies of the growth and the improvements in people's lives have been amazing. And we're grateful to God that we have the opportunity to do this, because one of the things that I always say is, you really don't know that tomorrow is guaranteed. So as much as you can, you help as many people as you grow, not when you feel like you have fully grown. And so that's been the Let Me Be a Woman story. And welcome to our community.